Are you an artist? Do you want to make a webcomic? You do! Well, why? Why would you want to do that to yourself? Do you hate yourself or something? Are you attempting to atone for some sort of sin and this is your torture of choice? Oh, it is? Okay, well, then you've come to the right place. I happen to be a webcomic artist, somehow, and instead of giving you tips, I'm just going to tell you what not to do if you're insane enough to actually make a webcomic. Thing to avoid number 1. Not doing it / over-planning. Now, there's nothing wrong with planning out your ideas for a series. Nothing wrong at all. In fact, you probably should. Trust me, I'm always planning ideas for another series or something. But you don't want to get stuck in the planning. I've seen long planning work out before, but a lot of the time I find that there's a lot of webcomic artists out there who don't actually have a webcomic, if you get what I mean. It's just important you actually start writing and drawing. Yes, it's probably very comfortable to stay in that planning stage, where you can just keep thinking up more amazing ideas for your series. And you can just imagine how cool it'll be once all this lore you've been building up in your Notepad app is on the page, and all the big battles and twists and turns that you've already thought up for arcs and villains that are way down the line story-wise are finally drawn out. But none of that's ever going to happen unless you start. It's okay not to have everything planned out. You'll come up with good ideas along the way, and you'll actually have a chance to use them, which you wouldn't have if you don't actually start. You can't be afraid you'll come up with a crazy good idea, but then accidentally write yourself into a corner and can't use it. Sure, that's why you would want to plan it out, but you don't have to be afraid, because if that happens, you can just change stuff. You're your own boss here. You are the editor, the writer, the artist, everything. The canon keeper. You're in charge. This is a webcomic. If you need to retcon something, go ahead. You don't need to plan out 35 years in advance. You just need to get going. Thing to avoid number 2. Getting hung up over old art. See, comics can take a while, and you're going to be drawing so often and so many times from start to end, you'll have drawn the same character hundreds, if not thousands of times. So your art is likely to change and get better. That's simply how art works. And well, that sounds great. Hey, you're going to get better. But then you realize, unlike just making general art where your old pieces fall out of the public eye over time, your comic will literally be a timeline of your progress as an artist. And everyone who wants to read it has to start at the beginning. And at some point, you'll likely go back and look and say, holy hell, I thought this looked good, and you're just going to have to get over that. Trying to go back and fix old art, it's a complete trap you'll accidentally set up for yourself. I've fallen into it many times, and it's a stressful endeavor. You just need to accept, in comparison, it's not going to look as good. Trust me, you think I don't want to go back and fix this? But trust me, it's just not a good idea. It happens to literally everyone. You don't think famous comic and manga artists don't go back and look at their early comics and go, geez, what the hell was I thinking? Of course they do, but they don't go back and change it. It should just remain the way it is. Trust me, it's a good thing for your comic to change and get better. You and your future fans will appreciate the ability to go back and look at your old, unchanged artwork. Thing to avoid number 3. Don't get stuck in one series. My first webcomic was never meant to be a webcomic. In fact, I never planned to make a webcomic. The idea alone seemed like a horrible process, yet here I am. It took me 5 years to finish my first webcomic. That was 5 constant years. I didn't drop the series and pick it up again or take extended breaks. No, that was 5 straight years. Now mind you, in my defense, 80% of that series was written in like the last 2 years because I started it when I was 15 and now I'm in college. Needless to say, I wasn't exactly the fastest artist when I was 15. Anyway, as much as I do love my hopelessly flawed first comic, it should not have taken me that long. When you first start off making comics, you should probably set a realistic time frame for yourself. Maybe only work on this first comic for a year. You probably shouldn't try to make your magnum opus on your first try. But if you really need to, then you really need to take breaks. And maybe during that break, work on another comic that's meant to be smaller in scope from the start. Something that's only meant to be a few chapters long, or maybe a one-shot. It'll keep your brain from turning to mush with your comic's name stamped on it. Anyway, as long as you set a reasonable time frame before you fully conceptualize the idea, you should be able to work within it, and your sanity will thank you later. Thing to avoid number 4. Being afraid to stop. Listen, if you don't like your story, if you don't like the characters you've made, or you feel like you've sort of dug yourself into a hole, just stop. You are your own boss here. You control everything in this. It's fine to drop a series if you don't like what you've done so far. Or maybe you like the ideas, but you only gotten a few chapters or episodes in, and you realize you want to take those ideas in a different direction than what you've already set up. It's okay to reboot your own idea. You don't need to be a soulless mega corporation or someone in charge of a property they hate to reboot a series. There's plenty of popular webcomics that started out differently and got rebooted by their creators for much better outcomes. I've seen it happen with my own eyes in real time. Maybe you don't like any of it, and you thought you had something amazing, and maybe to everyone else you did, but if you don't like it, then just drop it. I didn't drag my series 2 a.m. on the clock out. Do I hate it? No, but does it need to continue? Definitely not. Dragging your feet in something you don't like will just end badly for everyone. You, your fans, the comic, and my final thing to avoid, because this video isn't meant to be very long, is number 5, perfection. You are drawing a comic, segmenting action and story into panels on a page. You will draw the same character a million times over. Not all of them are going to be masterpieces, and that's okay. Listen, you don't gotta do a berserk. Even if you want to, it's okay for some panels to be more lax. You don't need to slave away over every drawing. Most readers aren't gonna give too much mind to a tiny panel where somebody picks up a cup. I suggest just making sure the smaller panels look good, and when the big panel comes up, a moment where you're meant to stop and stare for a while, the moments that were being built up to by the smaller panels, that's when you slave away. That's when you put on your big boy gloves and get down and dirty with your hatching. Here's the one actual art tip I'll give you in this video. A way to cut corners and not break your back trying to make sure that the chair in the background is in the exact same place it was in the previous panel is by losing the backgrounds. Like in JoJo, for instance. Araki will often draw a massive set piece of a background, and will do a great job. It'll look amazing. And then for many, if not most of the following panels, it'll be in some sort of void background, with the occasional normal but less detailed background to make sure you're still mentally keeping track of where things are happening. And you as the reader probably didn't even notice that Joseph was running around in the void for the past few pages because you were so focused on the action. Anyway, this video was something I wanted to do real quick. You should follow my art social medias. Links are in the description. And hey, if you're really considering making a webcomic, just do it.